I didn't know what to expect out of this show. I had no idea what I was going to be getting into when the time came for me to sit down and watch this show. I was already very well aware of its controversial reputation. I was already well aware of its very divisive nature. This is one of those you either love it or you hate it kind of shows. I've seen a lot of people say that they love this show, but I've also seen just as many people say that they hate this show. And honestly, I have no idea if there's more love for this show than hate, or if there's more hate for this show than love. It seems like it's just a perfect 50-50 between the two. I initially thought that it probably wasn't going to be Search for the Worst Cartoon worthy. Even if I didn't like it, it probably wasn't going to be worthy of the Search for the Worst Cartoon. But I knew that if I didn't make it a Search for the Worst Cartoon, if I made a video on Hazbin Hotel and it wasn't related to the Search for the Worst Cartoon, that would be a huge missed opportunity. So alas, I decided, you know what? I'm gonna make a Search for the Worst Cartoon for Hazbin Hotel. I've heard a lot of things about this show, good things, bad things. I was aware of its controversial reputation. I was ready to see what the big deal was with this show. I was ready to see what the hoopla was all about with this thing. What I did not expect was for this show to somehow be even worse than I expected it to be. I ain't gonna sugarcoat anything. I'm just gonna say my true, honest thoughts on Hazbin Hotel. Hazbin Hotel is one of the worst cartoons I have ever seen in my entire life. This isn't hyperbole. This isn't an overreaction. I'm not saying this to make people mad. I am being f***ing serious. But it goes much further on than that. When the time came for me to sit down and watch this show, I made a mental note to myself that even if I didn't like this show, even if for whatever reason I thought the show was bad, at least I would be able to see the appeal for it. At least I would be able to understand why people like this show. I am unable to do that. I don't know how anyone could like this show. I don't know how anyone could find this show good. I don't know how anyone could find this show funny. I don't know how anyone could find this show entertaining. It's just a joyless mess of a show. It's so ironic to me that, like, the people that say adult animation is bad are the same people that say, like, this is a great show and whatever. As if this isn't part of the problem. As if this won't escalate into a much bigger problem for adult animation in the nearby future. Maybe deep inside there is a good cartoon hiding, but the execution for this show is so bad. It is so poor. This is 100% without a doubt Search for the Worst Cartoon worthy. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. I have zero shame in putting this show alongside Alan Gregory, The Prince, Velma, Our Cartoon President, The Red Ape Family, all those other shows. I have no shame at all. I have zero shame in putting this show alongside The Slim Shady Show and Fairview. Do you realize how f***ing harsh that is for me to say? Do you realize how harsh it is for me to say that a piece of work is on the same level as The Slim Shady Show and Fairview? Fairview, one of the worst cartoons ever made. No, you don't understand how harsh it is. But now you will. Oh yeah, I just want to disclose something real quick. Yes, I am aware of serious creator Vivzy Pop's other show, Hell of a Boss. I was originally going to look at both Hazbin Hotel and Hell of a Boss in this episode. However, because I think this show is garbage, and because Hell of a Boss is 17 episodes long at the time of making this, I decided, nah, you know what, I think we'll save Hell of a Boss for another time. Right now, let's just focus on Hazbin Hotel. Too much Vivzy pop cannot be good for a person. Let's just say that right there. At some point in the future, I will cover Hell of a Boss. I don't know when. It's not going to be the next immediate episode, but sooner or later, I will talk about Hell of a Boss and explain why it's bad, assuming, God forbid, that it is on the same level of quality as Hazbin Hotel. I'm just gonna start this off by saying that the chronological order of these two shows confuses the out of me like you have no idea. Okay, so everything began in October of 2019 when a pilot episode was released for Hazbin Hotel on YouTube. And then 1 month later, in November of 2019, a pilot episode for Hell of a Boss would be released onto YouTube. And then in October of 2020, Hell of a Boss would go on to become a proper full-fledged cartoon. Meanwhile, Hazbin Hotel wouldn't go on to become a proper cartoon until January of 2024, nearly 5 years later, nearly half a decade later. Why did it take so long for Hazbin Hotel to become a proper cartoon when compared to Hell of a Boss? I have no idea, nor do I really care all that much. I don't know if it's like a High Guardian Spice situation where the show went through development hell. I have heard allegations that there are very harsh working conditions behind the scenes of both shows. Animators are overworked and underpaid, so that could be something. I mean, they're just allegations, so we don't know if they're true or they're not true, but I figured I might as well just bring them up here just in case. Better safe than sorry. In addition to watching the main 8 episodes of the final show, I also decided to watch the 2019 pilot, which is something that I'm glad I did, because if you watch the final show without watching the pilot episode, you're not going to be able to understand what the hell's going on as well. You are expected to know about the YouTube pilot going into this show, and granted, a lot of people have seen the YouTube pilot, 100 million people, Jesus Christ, man. But still, there are a lot of people out there, I want to imagine, that just randomly stumbled upon this show on Amazon Prime and decided to watch it, not knowing about the 2019 pilot, and as a result of that, they're going to be super confused as to what the is going on. They're going to be confused as to what this show is about. Nothing is going to make sense to them. So the show follows Charlie Morningstar, the princess of hell, as she opens up a hotel for demons, believing that anyone can be redeemed, anyone can be given a second chance, even demons. She opens up the hotel for demons to be redeemed, and allowing them to join heaven and leave hell behind. It's worth noting that there is a yearly extermination that the angels in heaven do to the demons in hell. Every year, the angels fly down to hell to eradicate various demons. And so Charlie tries to convince both heaven and hell that the hotel could be used as an alternative to the exterminations. Joining Charlie is her girlfriend, Maggie, who I am intentionally saying her name wrong for a reason. You see, her name is not Maggie. It's not spelled with an M, it's spelled with a V. Now, I cannot say her real name because it sounds just a little too close to a certain homophobic slur. Every time this character's name is said by Charlie or any of the other characters of the show, it sounds way too much like the F slur. I don't know why they decided to go with this name for this character. Every time Maggie's real name is said, I just hear an F. I don't hear a V at all. And it just confuses me how these people behind the scenes of this show, they listen to all the different takes from the voice actors and actresses. They listen to these characters say Maggie's real name. And somehow, just somehow, nobody in the production crew thought that this sounded a little too close to the homophobic F slur. Okay then, sure. Whatever floats your boat, I guess. I'm only bringing up Charlie because she's the main character, and I'm bringing up Maggie because her real name sounds like a completely different and very unfortunate word. But the rest of the main characters of the show, I could not be bothered to talk about them. And that's simply because there are too many characters in this show. There's at least like 10, 11 main characters in this show. It's just very cluttered. Talking about each and every single one of these characters would just be a chore to do, so I'm not even gonna bother. They all just kind of blend together with their flaws. Whatever you could say about one character, you could very easily say it about another character, and so on. Not helping the fact is that sometimes there are characters that just look extremely similar. Objectively speaking, from a visual standpoint, this is one of the better cartoons that I've covered on the Search for the Worst Cartoon. I don't think the art style is ugly or bad or anything like that. However, there's just something about it that kind of rubs me the wrong way. I think it's just the fact that every character kind of looks the same. It's like a very weird thing where every character is clearly different and unique with their designs, and yet at the same time they all just kind of blend together despite that. I'm pretty sure it just comes from the same face syndrome that most of the characters of the show suffer from. Almost every character on this show makes this eating grin at least once. For a large majority of the characters, it's just copy and paste, cookie cutter this eating grin expression. Upon closer examination of the character designs, I've noticed that in general they just have very similar facial structures. A lot of the characters on the show just have these pointy chins, and the moment I noticed it, I cannot unnotice it. I was wondering, watching this, why the character designs looked so off to me. Why did they feel so derivative of each other? And that's the reason why. A lot of these characters, they just have the same facial structure. They make the same expression. There's almost no variety, really, in the expressions from the characters. The very limited color scheme doesn't help things out either when it comes to why I'm not a big fan of the show's art style. Listen, I understand that this show takes place in hell. I get that. But would it really hurt Vivzy Pop to add in other colors in this show besides red, white, and black? All of the main characters have this color scheme. Just red, white, and black, and that's it. There's no blue, there's no green, there's no nothing like that. And that's not a good thing. If you give every character the exact same color scheme, that's not gonna make them stand out. Every character is just gonna blend in together. It's gonna be hard to distinguish one character from another. They're all just gonna sort of blend in, basically. There's not gonna be any unique standout character at all. You know that whole thing where it's like, if you can identify a cartoon character just from their silhouette alone, then that's an example of good character design or something along those lines? Yeah, that same thing applies to colors. I could just flash a few colors on screen right now, and I guarantee you, everyone watching this video will be able to easily identify which cartoon character is being represented by the three colors. Colors are important for a character design. It helps you memorize which character is which, especially if they have a wide variety of colors. SpongeBob is yellow, Patrick is pink, Mr. Krabs is red, that sort of thing. Now imagine if every character in SpongeBob had the exact same color scheme as SpongeBob himself. Yellow, brown, and white, and that's it. Yeah, all of a sudden, the characters aren't going to be as memorable. They're not going to stand out as much. It's going to be a lot harder to distinguish one character from another because of this. That is the problem with Hazbin Hotel. These characters don't need to have the exact same color scheme. It's okay to give them different colors. You could make this character blue. You could make this character green. That sort of thing. You could make this character purple. It's fine. Just because this show takes place in hell doesn't mean that everything has to be red, red, red. Red Dead Redemption. Whole lot of red. Like, that's not necessary at all. Now, I know someone could argue that something like The Simpsons, for example, almost every character on The Simpsons is yellow. And yeah, that is true. Nearly every Simpsons character is yellow. But here's the thing. They each have defining traits attached to them. They all have different color schemes that you could be able to identify. Going back to what I was saying with the whole you can identify a character just from their color scheme stuff, that applies to The Simpsons. Yes, The Simpsons are all yellow, but they also have other colors aside from yellow attached to them. I could easily show you a bunch of these pictures flashing on screen, and you could just look at them and you'll be like, yeah, that's Homer. Yeah, that's Marge. That's Bart. That's Lisa. That's Maggie. That sort of thing. Just because yellow is the main color associated with The Simpsons doesn't mean that it's the only color. There are still a variety of colors attached to The Simpsons, and that's what helps make their designs memorable. Imagine if every character on The Simpsons had the exact same color scheme as Homer. Yellow, white, and blue, and that's it. All of a sudden, none of the characters will feel unique or as memorable. It'll be a lot harder to distinguish one character from the other. And again, that's the problem with Hazbin Hotel. There's also the fact as well that the character designs in The Simpsons are very simplistic, whereas the character designs in Hazbin Hotel are very cluttered with unnecessary details. I really do think that Vivziepop could learn a thing or two about how sometimes less is more when it comes to character designs, because adding in all of these excessive details just makes the characters feel even less memorable than they already are. Maybe the excessive details are meant to cover up the fact that, in a way, every character just looks the same. Unfortunately though, between the limited color palette and the same face syndrome that a lot of the characters suffer from, that ends up not being the case at all. I am just simply unable to memorize these characters because of the flaws in their design. And this show has a lot of main characters in it, so that just makes it even worse. Usually, whenever I look at a cartoon on this series that has like an ugly art style or whatever, I briefly bring up that like, oh yeah, it's ugly and whatever, but like I don't really go into excessive detail because most of the time it just kind of speaks for itself. You look at something like The Prince and it's super obvious as to why The Prince is ugly. You just have to look at it and that's it. It speaks for itself. There's no reason for me to elaborate on why it looks ugly. Doing that would be redundant. With this, though, I felt it was necessary for me to go into detail about why I thought the art style for this show was off to me. I knew going into this show that there was just something about the art style that was just off to me, but I didn't know what it was until I more closely examined the art style of the show. I can only hope that all of the issues that I have with Hazbin Hotel's art style aren't present in Hell of a Boss, but I sadly very much doubt that. And with all of that said, I think it is time for us to move on to the main issue that I have with Hazbin Hotel. Now, if you're someone that has this magical thing called good taste and you think that this show is garbage, then there's a strong chance that you will know exactly what I'm talking about. We're going to be talking about the elephant in the room, if you will, for Hazbin Hotel. I saw a ton of memes being made about this, but I had no idea that in reality, this was exactly how the show was like. Let's talk about the humor, shall we? There is no humor in Hazbin Hotel. There are no jokes in Hazbin Hotel. There is no attempt to be funny in Hazbin Hotel. There isn't a single funny joke in Hazbin Hotel. There is not a single joke in Hazbin Hotel that I would consider worthy of being laughed at. I was just completely expressionless watching this show. Not once did I laugh, not once did I chuckle, not even a grin, a smile, nothing like that. Anything to give a vague hint that I found a joke mildly humorous and entertaining. No, nothing at all. Nothing like that at all. This show believes that swearing over and over and over and over and over again is funny. This show thinks that excessive swearing is comedy gold. All 9 episodes of the show suffer from this. They just think swearing is funny, and that's it. Saying the F word a million times is funny. It's just pointlessly edgy for the sake of being pointlessly edgy. There's no reason for it at all. I guess it's meant to be funny and shocking, and it ends up being neither of those things. I would see tons of memes being made about, like, if SpongeBob was made by Vivzy Pop or something like that, where it would just be constant swearing pointlessly shoehorned in. And I thought those were just, they're memes, obviously. I thought those were just jokes, overreactions, stuff like that. Hyperbole, basically. I had no idea that the humor of this show was actually like that. Just constant swearing and nothing else. Wikipedia lists this show as a musical, a black comedy, and a comedy drama. There are songs in the show, 2 songs per episode actually, so yeah, okay, it is a musical, I'll give you that. I'll go into detail about the songs later into the video. This is not a black comedy. A black comedy is something that has a darker style of humor. Usually, a black comedy takes a serious, disturbing subject matter and plays it out for laughs. It turns it into something a little more lighthearted, something to laugh at. This show doesn't do anything like that at all. The black comedy that this show has in question is just excessive swearing from all of the characters, and that's it. And not once is it ever funny. The main villain of this show, I guess you could say, is Adam. Yes, as in Adam and Eve from, the Christian lore and whatnot. He's only in 3 episodes of the show, but in all of his appearances, he's just nonstop swearing, just saying the F word, the B word, everything, over and over again. It's not funny. I don't know how anyone could find this funny. It's so devoid of humor. I genuinely question how this show has fans. Like, there is no way someone will actually sit down and think this is comedy gold. When I first sat down and watched the 2019 pilot, I made a note of the excessive swearing and how that seemed to be the only sort of joke included in the pilot. I am flabbergasted by the fact that somehow this has carried on to the final show, to the final product. I would be willing to somewhat forgive the pilot episode having this excessive swearing equals funny nonsense, but in the final show, it's just unacceptable. I mean, think about it. This came out nearly half a decade after the original 2019 pilot. The 2019 YouTube pilot was a small indie amateur short, and that's it. The final cartoon is a lot more professionally made. It has a bigger team behind it. It's on a major streaming service to watch. And yet, it still has the same bad writing, the same awful, unfunny humor that the original 2019 pilot had. Somehow, during the development of this show, between October of 2019 and January of 2024, Vivzy Pop's style of humor for this show would never change, never improve, nothing. You look at the animation for the pilot and you compare it to the final show, and yeah, there is an improvement, obviously. I think some of the voice actors are different, but I don't know. But the writing and the style of humor are exactly the same as they were. Somehow, in this time span, Vivzy Pop never moved on from the whole excessive swearing equals comedy gold nonsense. That somehow stuck around. I want to imagine there were a lot of changes made, a lot of revisions made to the show during its development, and yet somehow that rule that Vivzy Pop held on to, that belief that excessive swearing is funny, it never went away. It never changed. And yet, even more baffling than that is the fact that there are people out there that don't have a problem with this. I mean, yes, there are people out there that think this show is bad. There are people out there that have a problem with the excessive swearing. That's one of the main criticisms that people have for this show. But there are still people out there that enjoy this show and find it funny despite that. And I cannot fathom how or why anyone would find this funny. There are literally no other jokes in this show. The excessive swearing is all that you're gonna get when it comes to the humor for this show. There are no other attempts at comedy except, oh, the characters say the F word a billion times, and that's funny and hilarious and comedy gold. I feel bad for anyone that considers this their favorite cartoon. I really do. I cannot imagine looking at this and thinking this is your favorite cartoon. You love this show. I guarantee you that same person that considers this their favorite cartoon, they probably look at shows like Big Mouth or Velma and they think they're garbage. The irony is stunning. It really is. The world of animation is so massive. There are tons of different cartoons and anime out there, and you want to go with this as your favorite one. There are so many incredible cartoons out there, and this is what you want to consider your favorite cartoon. This. Modern Family Guy for people that hate Modern Family Guy. Seriously. This is no different or better than a lot of the bad adult cartoons that I've looked at on this series. There is nothing that makes this show better than Velma, and yet somehow it is nowhere near as despised as Velma. I'm sorry, I know I'm gonna get a lot of backlash for saying this, but I don't care. Why should I consider this good, but then I should consider Velma bad? Like, what's the difference, honestly? How are the two shows different? How is this good, but then Velma is bad? I'm being serious. I'm not asking this to piss people off. I'm asking this because I genuinely want to know. Is it because, oh, Hazbin Hotel is an original story, while Velma is based on an existing cartoon? Like, I don't get it. It's so stupid. I would seriously, genuinely love it if someone in the comments could provide me with a detailed, lengthy explanation on how Hazbin Hotel is good, but Velma is bad. Why am I supposed to like Hazbin Hotel but hate Velma? You can't say Velma is garbage and one of the worst cartoons ever made and everything wrong with adult animation and whatever, and then say that Hazbin Hotel is good. Because everything you could say about Velma, you could very easily apply it to Hazbin Hotel. I know there's gonna be comments saying like, oh no, you're wrong, Velma is unfunny garbage. Yeah, and Hazbin Hotel is funny. Characters swearing a million times. Yeah, that's some real good comedy right there. The Vivzy Pop is a comedy genius, isn't she? That's real good humor right there. It's also worth noting that even though this is a comedy, or at least it's supposed to be a comedy, there are serious themes in this show. There are serious elements in it. The problem, though, is that it is very hard for me to take these themes seriously. As I said before, Wikipedia considers this show a comedy drama. It is a very poorly executed comedy drama. A comedy drama is meant to be a blend of comedy and drama, hence the name. This show, on the other hand, fails at doing that. Whenever there's a serious moment in the show, it just clashes with the unfunny humor. There's an episode of the show, a rather infamous, controversial episode, focusing on one of the main characters, Angel Dust, who is a star of, let's just say, Korn, the nu metal band. So there's a scene where Angel Dust is trying to film a movie, but then Charlie intervenes, which causes the director of the movie to get angry at both of them. It's then revealed that Angel Dust is in an abusive relationship with the director, and I'm supposed to take this seriously. This is undeniably heavy subject matter, but I'm unable to take it seriously. You know why? Because the comedy clashes with it. The really bad comedy. I don't know how they expected me to take a show like this seriously. If you have to rely on excessive swearing as your only source of humor, then no, I'm not gonna take your dramatic moments seriously. Plain and simple. A comedy drama can only work if both the comedy and the drama are good. If one aspect is bad, then by default that makes the other aspect bad as well. This show has moments in it that I'm supposed to take seriously, but because it has the humor of a 14-year-old middle schooler, there's no chance in hell that I'll ever be able to take this stuff seriously. It just creates a complete clash with the tone. The show could just be dropping a million F-bombs expecting me to find it funny, and then randomly they'll be like, oh hey, here's an emotional moment that you're supposed to take seriously. I kid you not, there's a scene in the final episode of the show where one of the characters makes an unfunny sporting goods joke, let's just put it that way, and then it's immediately followed up with Charlie crying to Maggie over the possibility of them not winning the war against the Angels, to which a song starts where Maggie tells Charlie that they'll always be together no matter what, or some crap like that. And it's like, yeah, okay, it's meant to be a sweet, emotional moment, very cute. I don't feel it though. I don't feel that emotional. I don't feel emotional or anything like that watching it, because just a few seconds ago there was a really unfunny sporting goods joke that was made, and that completely ruined the mood that the show is trying to settle in. This sort of tonal shift is the exact thing that the MCU is criticized for nowadays, yet for some reason I guess it's perfectly fine when Hazbin Hotel does it. I don't know why. Oh yeah, you might be wondering, what am I talking about with the whole war against the Angels stuff? Well, you see, in the penultimate episode of the show, Charlie tries and fails to convince the Angels that her hotel could be used as a place for demons to get redeemed. And as a result of her failing to convince the Angels, they decide to start the extermination the next day, much sooner. Charlie and the others prepare to go into war against the Angels. The final episode of the show largely consists of the battle between the Angels and the demons. What I don't understand is, regardless of who wins, the demons win, spoiler alert, if anyone actually cares, but like regardless of who won, if the Angels won or the demons win or whatever, wouldn't that basically just destroy what Charlie had set out to do initially? What she wanted was for demons to redeem themselves and join heaven, and I don't think going into war with the Angels is gonna do anything about that. I don't think the Angels are going to look at this war and think, okay, you know what, maybe Charlie, we can allow her to do her hotel redemption crap and allow these demons to become angels and let them join heaven. They would be less willing to allow these demons to enter heaven because of this war. Early into the final episode, I thought they were going to do some stupid thing where it's like the angels and demons will make peace with each other or whatever. But no, that doesn't happen at all. I mentioned before, I guess you could say main antagonist of the show, Adam. Yeah, they defeat him in the battle. Just like that. And, yeah, I'm not sure if the Angels would still be willing to allow these demons to redeem themselves and go to heaven. At the end of the war against the angels, the hotel gets destroyed. However, there's like a scene at the end, a musical number, where they're rebuilding the hotel to be better than it was before. And it's like, girl, what the hell is the point of doing this whole redemption demon nonsense? You just basically destroyed any chances of that happening by fighting against the angels. It's such bad writing, seriously. And then there's a post-credit scene where one of the angels tries to get in touch with Charlie's mom, Lilith, obviously setting up a season 2 that will unfortunately happen. I've heard stuff that like this show was really successful for Amazon Prime. I think this was like the biggest debut for an animated show on Amazon Prime. So unfortunately, as much as I hate to say it, we are getting a season 2 of this. We're getting more of this garbage in the future, and we're just perfectly fine with it. Velma getting a season 2? No, that's bad and horrible. Boo. This getting a season 2? Oh my gosh, I'm so proud of Vivzy Pop. I'm so happy for her. Congratulations. I don't get it. I really don't get it at all. I think a big reason as to why I hate this show is because of the fact that so many other people like it somehow. Now I get that people have opinions and whatnot, but like, I just don't get how anyone can find this show enjoyable, especially when compared to other adult cartoons that get a lot more hate. It just doesn't sit right with me. The fact that last year a bunch of people were hating on Velma, claiming that it represented everything wrong with adult animation and whatever, and then the very next year, those same people are now praising this show of equal quality, calling it what adult animation needs right now, the future of adult animation, stuff like that. And let me tell you something. If this is what the future of adult animation looks like, then you know what? I think I'll stick with the unfunny Family Guy clones, thank you very much. Those are easily the lesser of the two evils. I look at Hazbin Hotel and I compare it to a lot of the bad adult cartoons that I've looked at on this series, and it's like, I don't see how it's different. I went into this show thinking it was going to be different from a lot of the other bad adult cartoons that I've looked at on this series. Either in the sense that it's actually a good show and not Search for the Worst Cartoon worthy, or it's a bad show and I don't like it and I consider it Search for the Worst Cartoon worthy, but it's different. It's unique from all the other bad cartoons I've looked at, all the other bad adult cartoons that I've looked at. That is not the case at all. There is nothing that makes this show any better or different from The Prince or Velma or anything like that. And yet somehow people think this is good. Somehow this isn't unanimously hated like Velma is. Obviously there are people out there that think this show is bad, but the overall backlash that it has received is very minuscule when compared to Velma's backlash, and I just don't understand why that's the case. At least Velma tries vaguely to be funny. It doesn't work out well, but at least there's an attempt beyond just swearing a million times. I hate this show more than Velma. I don't even care if that's a controversial thing. I mean, both are trash, so it's probably not that controversial, but I just don't understand how people will say, like, Velma is bad, and then they'll say this is good. Like, what's the difference, really? What is the difference? I'm willing to bet that if the infamous adults who still watch cartoons joke from Velma was in Hazbin Hotel, people will be eating it up and calling it funny. And by the way, I just want to say, they put this joke into the show to intentionally piss people off, and they succeeded. Y'all took the bait. I am not defending this joke. I'm not saying it's funny or anything like that, but it's so obvious that they only included this because they knew it would piss people off. It would make them angry. And unfortunately, it succeeded because people got mad at this joke. Y'all took the bait just like that. Y'all inadvertently proved their point in a way. I hope you realize that. I could just very easily see it. You slap this joke onto Hazbin Hotel, you add in a million unnecessary swear words for extra measure, and then boom, you're gonna have a bunch of people saying like, oh my gosh, this is so funny, Vivzy Pop is a comedic genius and whatever. I love how throughout this whole video, I never once went into detail about like the allegations of Vivzy Pop being a terrible person, and truth be told, that's not even like scratching the surface. That's just the cherry on top is what it is. Even if all of these allegations and whatever, that like the working conditions behind her shows are really harsh and whatnot, even if that was false, I would still consider this garbage. This is not a separate the art from the artist situation. Separating the art from the artist is not possible if the art is garbage, regardless of whether the artist is garbage as well or not. Vivzy Pop could be the greatest goddamn human being alive on planet Earth, and I would still consider Hazbin Hotel to be dog shit. Plain and simple. I'm not hating on this because popular thing bad. I'm hating on this because it's just such an unfunny, humorless thing. The humor in this show is practically non-existent, and the serious moments that are in this show I'm unable to take seriously because of how awful the humor is. I hate the fact that this will inevitably be an influential show for adult animation. I hate the fact that years on from now, people will be putting this show alongside The Simpsons, Family Guy, South Park, King of the Hill, Rick and Morty, BoJack Horseman, that sort of thing. I hate that fact. I don't care if this is an indie cartoon. That doesn't mean anything to me. Just because it's indie doesn't automatically mean it's good. Sometimes indie animation can be crap as well. I went into this show thinking that it'll be good, or at least not as bad as its haters made it out to be. As it turns out though, it is oh so much worse than the haters made it out to be. As someone that has sat through countless terrible adult cartoons, I can 100% verify that Hazbin Hotel is no better or different from most of the adult cartoons that I've looked at on this series. There are a couple positive things that I'll say about the show, I guess. I don't really like the art style all that much for the reasons that I mentioned earlier. However, I will say that it is objectively good, especially for Search for the Worst cartoon standards. This is one of the better cartoons visually. The songs are okay, I guess. I thought I would hate them a lot more, but I ended up not really hating them. I hated them initially, but eventually I just kind of grew numb to them. Objectively speaking, there's nothing really wrong with them. They're not poorly composed, they're not poorly sung. There's a few instances where you have pointless swear words shoehorned into the lyrics, but aside from that, I'm not sure if I want to call these songs poorly written. And just an FYI, the last thing that I want to do with my life right now is carefully analyze the lyrics for every Hazbin Hotel song to see if they actually have genuinely bad writing in them or not. So for the writing, we'll just leave it at a couple songs have unnecessary swearing in them, and that's it. I thought I would hate the songs a lot more, considering the fact that with a very few exceptions, I don't really like musicals all that much, but I guess the songs are just whatever. I would never listen to them. I would never consider them good songs, really. Songs that I would ever listen to. I guess there are a couple songs that are vaguely catchy, but that's about it, really. And finally, I never thought I would ever say this, but I genuinely, unironically find the Verbalace memes surrounding this show to be much funnier than the actual show itself. If I sat down and I watched the original animation of Verbalace and Charlie, I would unironically find it funnier. I would get more entertainment out of that than I would the actual Hazbin Hotel. The fact that this stupid video is one of the only good things to come out of this godforsaken show, no pun intended, should just really tell you something, honestly. I don't like Hazbin Hotel. I think it is one of the worst cartoons I've ever seen. I hate this more than a lot of the other cartoons that I've covered on the Search for the Worst cartoon, on the basis that I'm supposed to consider this good. A lot of the cartoons that I cover on the Search for the Worst cartoon are either unanimously agreed to be terrible, or they're extremely obscure and not a lot of people know about them, but the few people that know about them think that they're terrible, and if more people were aware of their existence, then yeah, for sure they would think it's terrible. I'm supposed to consider this good, though. I'm supposed to like this. This has a huge, dedicated fan base somehow. There will be people trying to defend this show. There will be people trying to claim that I am wrong and that this show is actually good, which is something that will never happen with any of the other cartoons that I've looked at on the search for the worst cartoon. Nobody's gonna try and convince me that Our Cartoon President is actually a good show or anything like that. Nobody's gonna go and comment, actually, the Slim Shady Show is a work of art. You're just a hater, seriously. And yet I know for a fact that that exact thing is gonna happen with Hazbin Hotel. And I'm sorry. I really, truly am sorry. But I hate this show. It is one of the worst cartoons I have ever seen. And I just cannot understand why people like this show. I just cannot see the appeal for it at all. Maybe if I hadn't looked at that many bad adult cartoons prior to this, then yeah, this would probably be a different story. But speaking as someone that has seen so much garbage, I can very safely say that Hazbin Hotel fits in with that garbage. And I have zero shame in saying that, regardless of how controversial that statement may be. I now dread the day that I have to look at Hell of a Boss and just witness more of the same crap. I don't even know if I'll ever make a Hell of a Boss video, because there's a very strong chance that everything that I've criticized Hazbin Hotel for, it'll likely apply to Hell of a Boss as well. I don't think there's going to be like any unique, original, standout reason for why Hell of a Boss is bad when compared to Hazbin Hotel. I don't know, really. Hell of a Boss could be better than Hazbin Hotel, it could be worse, it could be on the same level, only time will tell, really. Right now, though, I need a long break from anything Vivzy Pop related. I don't ever want to touch her work again for a very, very, very long time. Thank you very much. Anyways, that's about it. If you enjoyed this video, then be sure to like, and if you're new to the channel, maybe consider subscribing, as it would be greatly appreciated. Thank you everyone for watching this video, and I will see you all next time. Adios.